Kayana Renee and Ronell Burns seemed to have it all. They were young, ambitious, and deeply in love. Their journey began in Atlanta, Georgia, where they first met at a networking event in 2016. Ronell, a charismatic financial consultant with a background in barbering, was immediately drawn to Kayana's infectious energy and her sharp business acumen. Kayana, a rising beauty influencer with a flair for entrepreneurship, found Ronell's drive and determination irresistible. Within a year, they were married and began building a life together, centered around their shared passion for business and personal growth. They launched several ventures, including a successful beauty line, a motivational speaking platform, and a real estate company. But it was their YouTube channel, The Burns Family Hustle, that truly made them stars. On their channel, they documented their life as a power couple, offering business advice, motivational talks, and glimpses into their day-to-day life. Their content resonated with a wide audience, particularly young Black entrepreneurs who saw in them a reflection of their own aspirations. Kayana's beauty tutorials were a hit, and Ronald's financial tips were eagerly consumed by their growing fan base. By 2018, they had amassed a significant following, and their channel had become a beacon of success and love. But behind the glossy videos and perfectly curated social media posts, things weren't as picture perfect as they seemed. As the couple's fame grew, so did the pressures of maintaining their brand. The demands of their businesses and the constant need to create content took a toll on their relationship. Ronell was often away on business trips, while Kayana was consumed with expanding her beauty line and keeping up with the relentless pace of social media. The couple's communication began to falter. Kayana felt increasingly isolated, burdened by the expectations of their public persona and the reality of their deteriorating marriage. She began to suspect that Ronell was having an affair, a fear that grew into an obsession. Every late-night text, every unexplained trip, fed her insecurities. Ronell, on the other hand, was frustrated by Kayana's growing paranoia and her relentless need for validation from her online audience. He found himself withdrawing, both emotionally and physically, seeking solace in his work and time away from home. The love that had once bonded them began to erode, replaced by mistrust, resentment, and a deepening sense of isolation. Despite the growing tension between them, they continued to present a united front on their YouTube channel. To their audience, they were still the perfect couple, living the dream, but the pressure to maintain that facade was becoming too much for Kayana to bear. By late 2021, Kayana's mental state had reached a breaking point. Her suspicions about Ronell's fidelity had consumed her, leaving her anxious, paranoid, and emotionally unstable. The weight of their public image and the private turmoil of their marriage was tearing her apart. On the evening of November 4th, 2021, Ronell returned home late from a business meeting. Kayana, who had spent the day spiraling into darker thoughts, was waiting for him. An argument erupted, fueled by all the anger and pain that had been simmering beneath the surface for months. Kayana accused Ronell of cheating, demanding to know the truth. The confrontation quickly escalated into a shouting match, with both of them hurling accusations and insults. In a moment of blind rage and desperation, Kayana grabbed a handgun that Ronald kept in the house for protection. Before either of them fully realized what was happening, she pulled the trigger, shooting Ronald multiple times in the chest. Ronald collapsed, bleeding out on the floor, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief. As the reality of what she had done set in, Kayana was overcome with horror and grief. She knelt beside Ronald's lifeless body, her mind racing as she tried to comprehend the irreversible act she had just committed. Trembling, she reached for her phone and dialed 911. In a choked voice, Kayana told the operator that she had shot her husband, that he was dying, and that she needed help. But as she spoke, a cold, crushing sense of hopelessness washed over her. She couldn't see a way out, no way to undo the horror she had unleashed, no way to face the world after what she had done. Before the operator could respond, before the gravity of the situation could fully sink in, Kayana made one final, tragic decision. She placed the gun to her temple and, with a final tearful apology to Ronell, pulled the trigger. When the police arrived at the scene, they found both Kayana and Ronell dead in their home. The remnants of their once vibrant lives scattered around them. The news of their deaths sent shockwaves through their community and the online world. Their fans, who had idolized them as the epitome of success and love, were left reeling, unable to reconcile the couple they had admired with the tragic ending they had met. In the days that followed, details of their troubled marriage began to emerge. Friends and family spoke of the growing distance between Kayana and Ronell, the pressures of their public life, and the toll it had taken on their relationship. The story of Kayana Renee and Ronell Burns became a haunting reminder of the dangers of living life in the public eye, where the need to maintain an image can overshadow the real struggles and pain that lie beneath. Their YouTube channel, once a source of inspiration for so many, was shut down, and their business ventures were dismantled in the wake of their deaths. Their children, left orphaned by the tragedy, were taken in by relatives, shielded from the media frenzy that followed. Jacob Larson grew up in a quiet neighborhood in Austin, Texas. Born in 1997, he was the middle child in a family of 5, with 2 brothers who were much more outgoing and athletic than he was. While his brothers excelled in sports, Jacob found solace in books, video games, and the burgeoning world of the internet. From an early age, he had a fascination with mysteries, true crime, and the darker side of human nature. As a teenager, Jacob often spent hours watching documentaries about serial killers and unsolved crimes, intrigued by the complexities of the human psyche. In 2015, at the age of 18, Jacob decided to channel his interests into a YouTube channel. He named it Cryptic Crusader, a nod to his desire to explore and uncover the world's most disturbing and mysterious stories. At first, the channel was a modest effort, with Jacob recording videos on his phone and editing them on a basic laptop. He started with narrations of famous true crime cases, adding his own analysis and commentary. His voice, calm and methodical, drew in viewers who appreciated his detailed storytelling and the eerie atmosphere he created. As his subscriber count grew, Jacob began to expand his content. He started producing videos about urban legends, creepypastas, and conspiracy theories, all meticulously researched and presented with a chilling, almost clinical detachment. His audience loved it. By 2017, Cryptic Crusader had become one of the most popular channels in the true crime and horror genres, with hundreds of thousands of subscribers and millions of views. Jacob's success brought him financial stability and a sense of purpose, but it also fed into his darker interests. He became obsessed with his content, spending hours each day researching new cases and delving into the minds of killers. His apartment, once a typical bachelor pad, transformed into a macabre workspace filled with crime scene photos, case files, and maps dotted with pins marking locations of notorious crimes. His friends and family began to notice a change in him. He was more withdrawn, often canceling plans to work on his videos, and when he did engage in conversation, it was almost always about his latest project. As Cryptic Crusader continued to grow, Jacob began to feel the pressure to keep his content fresh and engaging. The internet was saturated with true crime channels, and Jacob knew that to stay relevant, he needed to push the boundaries. He started incorporating more sensationalist elements into his videos, focusing on cases that were particularly gruesome or controversial. His analysis grew darker, often delving into the psychology of the killers with an unsettling level of empathy. In late 2018, Jacob decided to take his channel in a new direction. He announced to his viewers that he would be starting a series called Crusader Chronicles, where he would investigate unsolved mysteries and cold cases in real life. His first few episodes were well received. Jacob visited locations connected to infamous crimes, interviewed experts, and even spoke with the families of victims. The series was a hit, and Jacob's subscriber count soared. However, the deeper Jacob went into these investigations, the more he began to lose himself in them. He became consumed with the idea of solving a case, believing that he was capable of uncovering truths that others had missed. He started spending days, sometimes weeks, obsessing over the smallest details, refusing to rest until he felt he had a breakthrough. His viewers noticed a change in his demeanor. His once calm and collected presentation became erratic. His videos filled with long, rambling monologues about the nature of evil and the fragility of the human mind. During the summer of 2019, Jacob began working on a particularly disturbing case. It was the unsolved murder of a young woman named Emily Parker, who had been brutally killed in her home in a small town in Ohio. The case had gone cold, with no leads and no suspects. Jacob was fascinated by the mystery, convinced that he could solve it where the police had failed. He traveled to Ohio, where he spent weeks interviewing locals, poring over police reports, and visiting the crime scene. Jacob's obsession with the case grew to dangerous levels. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly, and became increasingly paranoid. He started to believe that someone was following him, trying to prevent him from discovering the truth. He even mentioned in one of his videos that he believed the killer might be watching him, taunting him with his own failures. His viewers were concerned, but many were also captivated by the unfolding drama, eager to see where Jacob's investigation would lead. As Jacob delved deeper into Emily Parker's murder, his grip on reality began to slip. He started seeing connections where there were none, convinced that he was on the verge of a major breakthrough. He spent hours each day driving around the town, following what he believed were clues left by the killer. He started to avoid contact with his friends and family, fearing that they might try to stop him from uncovering the truth. In October 2019, Jacob's paranoia reached its peak. He became convinced that one of the locals he had interviewed, a reclusive man named Thomas Green, was the killer. Green was a quiet, middle-aged man who lived alone on the outskirts of town. He had been a suspect early in the investigation, but had been cleared due to lack of evidence. Jacob, however, was certain that Green was guilty. He started staking out Green's house, watching him from a distance, and even breaking in one night to search for evidence. What Jacob found, or believed he found, convinced him that he was right. He discovered a collection of old newspapers and photos that seemed to connect Green to Emily Parker. In his mind, this was the proof he needed. But instead of going to the police, Jacob decided to take matters into his own hands. He wanted to confront Green, to force a confession out of him, and capture it all on camera for his channel. On the night of October 23rd, 2019, Jacob broke into Green's house again, this time armed with a knife and his camera. He planned to confront Green, but when he entered the house, things quickly spiraled out of control. A struggle ensued, and in the chaos, Jacob stabbed Green multiple times, killing him. Jacob fled the scene, his mind racing. He was convinced that he had done the right thing, that he had brought a killer to justice. He returned to his hotel, where he uploaded a video to his channel, explaining what had happened. The video was a rambling, incoherent mess, with Jacob claiming that he had solved the case and that Green's death was justified. His viewers were horrified, realizing that Jacob had crossed a line from investigator to vigilante, and now murderer. The video quickly went viral, and within hours, the police were at Jacob's door. He was arrested and charged with murder. The case became a media sensation, with Jacob's trial attracting widespread attention. In court, Jacob's defense team argued that he had been suffering from a severe mental breakdown, driven by his obsession with the case and the pressures of his YouTube career. Despite these arguments, Jacob was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The trial raised questions about the ethics of true crime content on platforms like YouTube and whether creators like Jacob were being pushed to extremes by the demands of their audiences and the algorithms that rewarded sensationalism. Logan Wright was born in 1992 in the suburban sprawl of Phoenix, Arizona. From a young age, he showed a keen interest in technology, often taking apart gadgets just to see how they worked. His parents, both teachers, encouraged his curiosity, fostering an environment where creativity and knowledge were highly valued. By the time Logan reached high school, he had developed a love for storytelling and film. He spent hours on YouTube, captivated by creators who combined their passions with high-quality production. Inspired by these creators, Logan decided to start his own YouTube channel. In 2010, at the age of 18, he named it Urban Outlaw, a nod to his fascination with urban exploration and the thrill of venturing into the unknown. Logan's content began with simple explorations of abandoned buildings in his hometown. His early videos, shot on a modest camera, captured the eerie beauty of forgotten places, old factories, decaying homes, and shuttered malls. He had a knack for storytelling, weaving together the history of these places with his personal experiences. As his editing skills improved, so did the quality of his videos. By 2013, Urban Outlaw had gained a substantial following, with subscribers who eagerly awaited each new adventure. What set Logan apart from other urban explorers was his charisma. He was a natural in front of the camera, confident, articulate, and always ready with a quick joke or insightful comment. His videos had an air of authenticity, a sense that Logan was someone who truly cared about the stories he was telling. As his subscriber count climbed, so did his ambitions. He began traveling across the country, visiting famous abandoned sites and documenting his experiences. Logan's success brought him into the orbit of other YouTubers. He collaborated with popular creators, attended industry events, and even landed a sponsorship deal with a major outdoor gear company. By 2016, Urban Outlaw was not just a hobby, it was a full-time job, earning Logan a comfortable income and a loyal fan base. Despite his success, Logan began to feel a growing sense of unease. The pressure to constantly produce content weighed heavily on him, and he found it increasingly difficult to keep his videos fresh and exciting. His early joy in exploring forgotten places was slowly being overshadowed by the demands of his online persona and the expectations of his audience. As Logan's channel grew, so did his personal struggles. The long hours spent editing, coupled with the need to continually up the ante, left him exhausted and isolated. He began to withdraw from his friends and family, retreating into the world of his channel. The once thrilling explorations became a chore, a never-ending race to capture the next viral moment. Around this time, Logan's content started to shift. He began incorporating more sensationalist elements into his videos, exaggerating the danger of his explorations, hinting at paranormal activity, and crafting elaborate narratives around the places he visited. These changes paid off in terms of views, but they also attracted a different kind of audience, one more interested in thrills and chills than in the stories behind the abandoned places. To maintain his audience's interest, Logan started taking greater risks. He ventured into more dangerous locations, sometimes illegally, and pushed himself to explore places that were rumored to be haunted or cursed. The adrenaline rush of these adventures temporarily numbed his growing sense of disillusionment, but it also led him down a darker path. By late 2017, Logan's mental state had begun to deteriorate. The isolation, stress, and constant pressure to perform took a toll on his psyche. He became increasingly paranoid, convinced that someone or something was watching him during his explorations. These feelings intensified after he visited an abandoned asylum in upstate New York, a place notorious for its dark history and alleged paranormal activity. The asylum exploration video became one of Logan's most popular uploads, but it also marked a turning point in his life. In the weeks following the shoot, Logan experienced vivid nightmares and disturbing hallucinations. He became fixated on the idea that he had brought something back with him from the asylum, something evil that was now haunting him. Logan's paranoia began to manifest in his videos. He started to address the camera directly, speaking to his audience about the strange occurrences in his life. He claimed to hear footsteps in his apartment, see shadows out of the corner of his eye, and feel an overwhelming sense of dread that he couldn't shake. His audience, initially skeptical, became engrossed in his apparent descent into madness, unsure whether it was real or just another narrative for the channel. As 2018 began, Logan's behavior became increasingly erratic. He stopped leaving his apartment, except for the occasional exploration, and spent most of his time researching the occult and paranormal phenomena. His videos, once meticulously edited, became rambling monologues where he would discuss his fears and suspicions. He told his viewers that he believed he was being followed, that the spirit from the asylum had attached itself to him and was driving him to the brink of insanity. His fan base was divided. Some believed Logan was fabricating the entire story for views, while others were genuinely concerned for his well-being. Despite the growing alarm from his closest friends, Logan refused to seek help. He became convinced that the only way to rid himself of the entity was to confront it directly. In March 2018, Logan announced that he was planning his final exploration, an overnight stay at the asylum where his troubles had begun. He promised his viewers that he would confront the entity and either banish it or die trying. His announcement sent shockwaves through his fan base, with many pleading for him to reconsider. But Logan was determined. He believed that this was his destiny, that he had been chosen to expose the truth about the paranormal, even if it cost him his life. Logan's final video, uploaded just before his departure, was a chilling mix of desperation and resolve. He spoke about the darkness that had consumed him, about the isolation and fear that had become his constant companions. He assured his viewers that everything would make sense soon, and that the truth would be revealed. Logan arrived at the asylum in the dead of night, armed with his camera, a flashlight, and a few pieces of equipment he had bought online, purportedly to detect spirits. As he entered the crumbling building, he felt a familiar sense of dread wash over him. The corridors were silent, the air thick with dust and decay. But this time, Logan was not here to explore. He was here to confront whatever had been tormenting him. He set up his camera in the main hallway, where the peeling paint and shattered windows added to the atmosphere of despair. As the hours passed, Logan walked through the asylum, calling out to the entity, demanding it show itself. He claimed to hear whispers, footsteps, and see fleeting shadows, but nothing tangible materialized. His frustration grew, and with it, his fear. In the early hours of the morning, Logan's camera captured him sitting in a corner of the asylum, talking to someone or something that wasn't there. His voice was low, almost pleading, as he begged for the entity to leave him alone. The final moments of the video are a chaotic blur as Logan's camera falls to the ground, capturing only the sound of his panicked breathing and footsteps as he ran through the building. The next day, Logan's body was found by a security guard patrolling the property. He had died from what appeared to be self-inflicted injuries. His camera, still recording, was found nearby. The footage was later released by the police, though heavily edited to remove the most disturbing content. Logan Wright's death shocked his fans and the broader YouTube community. In the weeks that followed, discussions about mental health, the pressures of online fame, and the dangers of blurring reality with fiction dominated conversations. Many speculated whether Logan had truly been haunted by something supernatural, or if his own mind had turned against him. In the aftermath, YouTube faced criticism for its role in the tragedy. Some argued that the platform had incentivized Logan's increasingly dangerous behavior by rewarding sensational content with views and ad revenue. Others pointed to the lack of support for creators who were struggling with their mental health, particularly those in the horror and paranormal niches, where the lines between reality and fiction were often blurred. Logan's death became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the potential consequences of unchecked paranoia and the pressures of online fame. His story, once a thrilling tale of urban exploration, ended in tragedy, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions and a community grappling with the loss of one of its own. Urban Outlaw, once a beacon for adventurers and thrill seekers, became a symbol of the dangers lurking in the dark corners of the internet. Logan Wright's final exploration was not just of an abandoned building, but of the darkest recesses of his own mind, a journey from which he would never return.